We are looking for a few good women. That's the title of tonight's episode of Scandal, Season 4, Episode 21. Welcome to the Scandalous Scandal Recap. I'm Larry Brown Jr., and this is...
Hi, everybody. I'm Janiyah Wright. So excited about tonight, LBJ. That episode, amazing.
It was wonderful. It was
So
completely
good.
wonderful. We are not going to belabor the point. We are going to jump right into this conversation. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We invite you to converse with us in the Q&A if you're watching on Google+, or you can tweet us. I'm at Larry Brown Jr. and Janiyah's at the Janiyah Wright. You can also text us or make a comment on the Google+ page, and we will make sure that we try to get to every one of your comments and questions regarding this episode of Scandal tonight. Janiyah, I say we could begin so many different places.
So many different places.
So many different places. But I think what we should probably do is start from the top. Let's pick up where we left off. Jake lives. Jake is yet alive. And because Jake lives, a lot of you can face tomorrow. Am I right, Janiyah?
Listen, yeah, he definitely gave me life. You know, I had absolutely lost a little bit of life force for that few minutes where we thought, is Jake dead? LBJ, I am so happy he's alive. And where was he tonight, LBJ? We met him laying in Olivia's bed, you know, all bandaged up, you know, being nursed to health by his love, Olivia, LBJ. What a poetic way to start the episode.
It was completely poetic, Janiyah, but I was also wondering what was going to come of Jake being in Olivia's bed, Jake in Olivia's apartment. What was this about? And he really was making an attempt to cover her. He's fallen in love with Olivia, and you know he wants to stand in the sun with her. He wants to sip wine with her. He wants to live in another country with Olivia. And I felt like Jake was, you know, just laying. He had no other choice but to lay there and think about what his life would be like with Olivia, and also what is going on that Olivia is not telling me. And what I liked about that moment with Olivia and Jake, although I'm not a fan of really Olivia and Jake, just because of the way that Olivia was pursued by Jake, I do think that Olivia tried her best to protect Jake and really seek out the best way for Jake to continue to mend and to heal. So I did like the fact that Olivia was trying to, help Jake along the way in his process.
Absolutely. You know, of the available options, all of which are not super awesome, except for what #bring Marcus back. But of all the available options, LBJ, I have continued to root for Jake over all else. You know, at the end of the day, he is probably the only person in this entire show that is, you know, loving Olivia in a genuine way. He fell in love with her. Whereas everyone else, LBJ, is getting something from her. Everyone else is indebted to her, right? But LBJ, he really kind of fell emotionally before they had a chance to become indebted to each other. It was in the course of trying to manipulate her that he fell in love with her. And so for that reason, LBJ, I feel like his love is the most innocent.
You know what, Janiyah, and for that, I will agree with you. Jake's love is the most innocent for Olivia. Jake actually confessed his love for Olivia in the wonderful monologue that he said to her, and it was the monologue. Did I title this monologue?
I will title it. I will title it, LBJ.
I have a title, but give me your title.
Okay, my title is Russell is Just Like Me.
Okay,
that's what I would call it.
So my title is He's Not Like Me.
Oh, that's a much better title.
My B title would be for this one. My B title would be He's Exactly Like Me.
Because he
said those words. He said those words. He's exactly like me.
Yes, I think that's the title, LBJ. Jury's back. Jury's back. That's the title.
Okay, wonderful. But here's the thing, though. I mean, this moment though was pretty epic because this was Jake trying to get Olivia to see what he is seeing and see what his life is like. And he tells Olivia, he spills Russell's entire game to Olivia. He says, he told him, Rowan told Jake, back up. Rowan told Jake and he told Russell, you need to get a PhD in Olivia Pope because because Rowan told them to do that. He's exactly like me, is what he said to Olivia about Russell. Your father made me, and he made Russell. He made us on the same assembly line. The only difference is that I love you. Command would call that a defect. Russell does not have that defect. Russell, he said, and remember, Russell built Rowan and I'm messing up. Rowan built me, and Rowan built Russell. But Rowan built Russell to be a better me because I have the defect. I love you. You can torture him all you want, Olivia, but he will never talk. We are exactly the same, but he does not love you.
LBJ, I would like to say congratulations on really butchering one of the best.
I knew you were going to say that because I knew all the women were going to love that whole monologue, and I was trying my best not to mess it up. But I was typing fast and had to type whatever, so please bear with me.
LBJ, first of all, hashtag we don't forgive you, because that monologue was so important and so well done. We don't appreciate it all right now. How you just really put your own little flair on it when no, you were not a writer for this show. So LBJ, we don't like it, we don't appreciate it. But LBJ, I'm just so happy that we're spending time on this scene, because one of the things that's happened over the course of the last few episodes is that there were moments where, we on some level started to doubt Jake's allegiance, right? There were those little moments where he was doing things that turned out to be working out for us, working for our good, but we weren't sure about his motives. LBJ, I think we needed this moment to be reminded that Jake's love is genuine, Jake's love is real, and that it is not something that he is doing to manipulate. It really, truly is, and in his words, a defect, because he is not fulfilling his mission. And he was built, LBJ. When he talked about himself and he talked about Russell, he basically, it's so strange because in some ways, they look at Command as a father figure, but in other ways, LBJ, he built them. They talk about themselves like they're machines or monsters, that were literally constructed from nothing. And I'm sure psychologically that's absolutely the case. And so he's sitting there, someone who was built, literally programmed by Olivia's father, and looking at his love, LBJ, as a defect, because anything that goes against Command is a defect. So LBJ, it was just a very profound moment in his declaration. I think what was really, really resonant about that episode, though, I don't know whether anyone else noticed this, but Olivia never said, I love you back.
She didn't. Olivia did not say, I love you back. I don't think Olivia is built to love at this point. Olivia is quite torn. We know that Olivia, she gives up the goods and she squeezes the grape and lets them drink the wine on a regular basis among different men. So, I don't know when she will ever say, I love you in return. But you know who I will say, because they love Olivia Pope, who will say they love Olivia Pope is that Huck and that Quinn. They will do anything for Olivia Pope. The fact that they were in Lois's apartment, really trying their best to get out the details of a foxtail, and Russell was not saying anything. I mean, they like Huck stopped Olivia from going into one of her PTSD moments when she was trying to assist Huck in preventing Russell from swallowing the kill pill. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. And LBJ, something else that was revealed in this exchange of watching Huck try to get information out of Russell and watching Jake debrief his relationship with Command. And then later on, we'll get to it in a minute, watching Russell debrief his relationship with Command. LBJ, one of the things we're coming to understand is that there were definitely lots and lots of different levels and layers to B613. I think up until this point, on some level, I was thinking of Huck and Jake as equivalent. Somehow I was thinking that within the world of B613, there's just, a level of super spy, there's a level of super machine, and that they were all kind of operating on the same level. But LBJ, that's absolutely not the case, because we already know that Huck's experience as a B613 is very different from what Jake and Russell experienced. Jake and Russell had a very isolated experience, whereas Huck absolutely saw some of his peers, and it's all, to me, it became very clear to me in watching Huck try to torture Russell. If
Mm-hmm.
Huck knew what Jake knew and what Russell knew, there's no way he would have been trying to torture Russell to get the information, LBJ. Because again, there was no way, no how that Russell was going to give up any information. But Huck didn't know this. Huck's pulling out all the tricks he has using his little best friend assistant, from the dark side, Quinn, and to really, try to torture him to get information out. LBJ, there was literally no chance of Russell breaking. LBJ, I have to say though, while it was enjoyable watching Russell, really truly get tortured. What did you think of that exchange between Russell and Jake?
Oh my gosh, it was a total bromance moment, Janiyah, between Russell and Jake while they were sitting there exchanging pleasantries regarding B613, regarding Rowan Pope, regarding Olivia. I mean, in that moment, everybody, we went on a ride with them to deal with two important things. And those two important things were this to me. And I hope that you all will agree with me with this. But first, I'll go to I see your comment, Coffee Light and Sweet. Hello, welcome back. We're so glad you're here.
Welcome back.
We'll get to your comment in just a moment. But the two things that we dealt with in the bromance scene between Jake and Russell was were Rowanisms. The Rowanisms, there were four Rowanisms. I got 3 of the 4. The 3 were, and they said this in Rowan's voice too. This was so good to me because I try to live my life, the part of my life as Rowan Pope.
Yes, you did.
They said, and then he'll just start talking to you. And they were sipping the domestic beer, and he says he'll just start talking to you, asking you all kinds of questions. When will you raise your ambition to meet my standards? And then he said, do you think? And then the other guy was, and then who was it? I think this was Russell. Russell says, do you think it's wise to return to my presence? And the last one, that was good, right?
That was so good.
And then the other one, the last one that I got was, you can't take command, son.
What
was crazy about that is that both of these guys, and there was another one. If anybody can remember what the second one was, I can't remember what the second one was. I got those 3 out of those 4. But what was interesting, Janiyah, is that both of these men's common denominator was that they needed someone in their life to be a father figure, even in their adulthood. And this is who became their father figure, Rowan Pope. And that's how he was able to really mold them and put them on the assembly line of B613 to become who they are. Who is this? This is Coffee Light and Sweet. And she's talking about Rowan Pope. She says, hi, can you imagine the pledge process in the Rowan Pope frat on B613? She says, Rowan is Big Brother Almighty. Let's not even talk about the crossing details. Don't want to know it. Nope, I'll pass. Exactly. Who knows what will have to happen if you were crossing the burning sands into B613. But the other thing they were talking about in this moment, Janiyah, was something that I always talk about here in the Scandalous Scandal recap. And do you know what I'm about to say?
Please, LBJ, what is it?
They were talking specifically about the nectar factor.
LBJ,
did they not?
They absolutely did. And LBJ, so let's just set the scene a little bit more here. We danced around it. Let's set the scene, LBJ. Here we have Russell, who has tried to take us out, right? He's tried to take us out. We were on to him. We captured him. We're torturing him to try to get information. What are you up to, Russell? What are you up to, Russell? Jake and Olivia are having these revelations about their relationship and the fact that it's sustaining, despite the fact that it started in a manipulation that had to do with Rowan. And LBJ, in the midst of all of this, Jake trots himself right on over to Russell, and they decide to sit there and debrief their life experiences. And LBJ, they could not, in that second, in that moment, in that exchange, get around, LBJ, the fact that they both have been taken, LBJ, taken by what?
Taken! The nectar! Oh, yes. Taken by the nectar. Taken by the nectar.
Taken by the nectar, LBJ. And she's getting them good. She's getting them real good.
She's getting it real good, so much so it was just almost like Russell pretty much should have said, if you wrote nectar in the dictionary, next to it you will find a picture of Olivia Pope, because he said he was sitting there all handcuffed and he's just like, I was trying. Jake tells him, Jake is commending him. He's like, you're good. Like, you're really, really good. What happened? Like, why didn't you finish the job? Why am I still here? I'm paraphrasing. And Russell's sitting there all handcuffed. He's like, it was Olivia. Like, she got to me. Olivia got to me. Oh my gosh. Maya Angelou talks about in her poem "And Still I Rise." Is it that are you jealous of me because I dance like I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Does Olivia Pope have diamonds at the meeting of her thighs? Is that my question to you?
They are diamonds inset in platinum. I mean, she's really got something going on. LBJ, Dan Blakemore is highlighting another little important nugget from that scene. He's saying Jake called it that Command wanted Liv to catch Russell so that she would know that her father is always there. Oh my gosh, Dan Blakemore, you're hitting on such an important point, because LBJ, what Jake did there in that moment, he walked in fully acknowledging that no amount of torture was going to get any allegiance or information from Russell. But LBJ, what did he do instead? He talked about the commonness of their experience, number one. That's what he focused on. And then LBJ, number two, what else did he focus on? He focused on Olivia. And what we discovered, LBJ, is that it turns out that Russell might indeed have that exact same defect, LBJ, as what has happened now with Jake. LBJ, he said, listen, I know that he basically said, you're probably somewhat in love with Olivia at this point. Hashtag diamonds and pearls, right? But you know what? Your whole presence in her life was to undermine her. And Russell, LBJ, within a blink of an eye, he goes from being an enemy of the state to saying, Jake, you're watching out for Olivia, right? And Jake's like, yeah. They're partners in crime, LBJ. Already. Bosom buddies. Hashtag protect Olivia.
Totally protect Olivia. But here's the other thing, Janiyah. This scene also went back to what I have said over and over and over again to you and everyone else in the Scandal recap, is specifically in relation to Olivia and Rowan's relationship. I enjoy their relationship. Why? Because this is the way that he has to father his daughter, especially in his adulthood. I've said over and over again, this is something different that we have never seen before. And this is how he has to communicate with his daughter. This is how he has to let her know that he's there, that he's really got her back if she plays her cards right and if she does what he tells her to do. He will let her live and be free as long as she is not going out of the parameters that he will continue to set for her in her life. And unfortunately, but fortunately, that is how he fathers his daughter, even in her adulthood. I've said that over and over again, and I thank the Scandal gods for proving me right on this night for the Scandal, Scandal in the Scandal recap. Boom. Thank you so much, Janiyah.
Oh my gosh, LBJ, and I want to just say, as a part of your fan base, we once again are disappointed in how incorrect you are right now, because LBJ, that is not parenting, LBJ. That is literally controlling. That's manipulating. That's absolutely not a way of showing love, LBJ.
But I think lots of ways. Relative right now, though, Janiyah, like, this is something that's totally relative. This Pope family is not like any of us, okay? So we have to dismiss what we think parenting is and look at it in the eyes of a Pope. Pope, this is parenting. This is, her mama sits at the table with handcuffs like, Livy, get me cable, get me a white picket fence, I can see you on the news. Like, and she's like, oh, and then she's about to cry. Her mom like, you better not cry. I'm like, it's something different. This is how they live. And this is how they function. So they're functional dysfunctions. They're functional dysfunctional people. And we got to accept that about the Pope family.
Yes. Well, LBJ, I accept the dysfunction, but you and I continue to disagree about, Daddy Pope and, where the base of all of this kind of, manipulation is coming from. You continue to interpret these things as acts of love and as acts of relationship. And LBJ, I just can't get past it. The man is cray to the cray. You know, so I just, so LBJ, this is a point where we have to continue to agree to disagree.
Wait, but
Yeah.
before we continue to agree to disagree, Coffee Light and Sweet says one thing's for sure. This is in relation to the nectar factor, folks.
Yes.
Coffee Light and Sweet says, "Let me just get this off my chest, y'all. I bet not never ever see the following three men in the same room talking about Olivia's nectar: Jake, Russell, and Fitz." She said, I just might walk into the light. She just might walk into the light, just saying.
Yeah,
So
that
funny.
would be it. Yeah. Although we've already seen Jake and Fitz together commiserating about their love for Olivia. So you know what? I wouldn't put it past Shonda.
As long as they don't talk about the nectar. D Hill is back in the Q&A. D Hill, welcome
Hey,
back.
D Hill.
D Hill is just like straight up hashtag taken by the nectar. Taken by the nectar.
Another one bites the dust, and that's some good dust apparently, LBJ.
Boy, those are diamonds. That's not dust. Yeah, those are diamonds. Those are diamond chips.
Yeah,
those are accent stones.
Yeah, they are, LBJ. LBJ, on the topic of parenthood, LBJ, in these relationships, LBJ, perhaps is exactly the right time to segue to another parenting relationship that was a topic tonight, LBJ. And who was it? Your favorite character and mine, Mellie, once again, having to deal with, the loss of her son, LBJ. Yeah. So here we have Lizzie Bear DeGeneres, LBJ. And, she is continuing to do a horrible job, from my perspective, of participating in this campaign. Yeah. Lizzie Bear, we're not impressed with you, okay? We don't understand what you're doing. And frankly, at this point, you're not impressing me anymore. I went from being excited every time she came onto the screen to sighing a little bit. So I'm hoping they'll do I'm hoping they're going to do a little something with this character so that we don't just start to feel annoyed. That actress, Portia de Rossi Generous, she has so much star power, and I feel like they're not utilizing her correctly anymore. I feel like that when she first joined this show, she was given such interesting storylines, and she was playing such pivotal roles in how the episodes progressed that we were excited when she came onto the screen. And LBJ, I really could have had a V8 about her tonight. I mean, seriously. But there's Lizzie Bear DeGeneres, and she wants Mellie to go and campaign where? In Springfield, Virginia. Yeah. LBJ, what happened the last time Mellie went to Springfield, Virginia?
What happened there is their son died in Springfield, Virginia. And she was going back to the place of her son's untimely death to the public, but to her son's murder behind closed doors. And they were trying to find a way to strategize, bringing up the son's, really to leverage and lean in using the son's death for the good of her campaign. And Lizzie Bear DeGeneres tried her best to incorporate that and to weave it into her speech. It was a fail. It was a complete and total fail because she wasn't ready to deal with it. But if we take about 7 steps back, let's look at what the hot topics were at the time, and that topic was military rape. And that's what we dealt with in this episode. Scandal really went out on a limb and really gave us a wake-up call to tell us to change our policies and to change our practices in this country as it relates to the way we treat and deal with women on all levels. And that is one of the things that we talked about. That's what we talked about in tonight's episode. Janiyah, am I going too far off of what you were talking? Am I going too far off right now, or should I keep going?
LBJ, please keep going, because you're now getting to one of our favorite parts of the episode, and we miss it when it's not there, LBJ. It is the case, LBJ. When Olivia has a case that she's working, and we're not just focused on Olivia drama, it's a full episode, LBJ. That's the episode where I'm taking, pages of notes, just getting every single little nugget. LBJ, yes, let us please talk about the case. LBJ, take it back, LBJ. How do we find this case? Just kick it off for us, LBJ.
Sure. So, and I wanted to pause too, just to make sure, because I know you were specifically talking about the Lizzie Bear DeGeneres thing and your disdain with Lizzie Bear DeGeneres as a campaign manager.
That's the right word. That's the right word, LBJ. It is disdain. Thank you.
And I didn't want to forsake your disdain for Lizzie Bear DeGeneres this episode, but I did want to say, I did want to kind of go back to say to kind of let the people know why we're talking about why you were so taken aback by her management skills. So this episode opened for the sake of OPA, the OPA storyline. There was a Vice President Ross is on a military ship, and she's going by greeting the officers. All of the officers are saluting her on the ship. She walks past a woman officer, a servicewoman, and she notices her wrist. There's a bruise on her wrist when she goes to salute the vice president. The vice president, being the chipper, jolly woman that she is, I tweeted that woman. I forgot what her name is, but she is great as the vice president. I love her on the show. I think she adds so much to the plot lines of Scandal, and I'm looking forward to what she will bring in the season finale and hopefully beyond into next season on the show.
Very good.
She's so good. So good. So we go to the woman with the bruise on her wrist. And so the vice president very cleverly says, I'm Vice President Susan Ross. What's your name? She says, I'm Officer somebody something. I wrote her name down, but it's not coming to me right now. So she introduces herself. She said, what do you do? I'm a communications somebody for the ship. And that's what I do. She said, oh, you know what? I would love to see the living quarters of a communications person on the ship for the United States military. Can you show that to me? She's like, and then, the admiral steps in. He's like, oh, well, we can arrange for a tour of the ship for you, Vice President. She said, no, I want to see where she lives. Flexing her power. Why not? You're the VP. You can do it. She takes you to the room. She says, Vice President, this is where I live, man. She said, okay, great. She said, I have a question for you. I'm going to pull you to the side. Hey, listen, I saw that bruise on your hand. What's that bruise about on your hand? Are you okay? Is everything all right on the ship? Oh, yeah, it was just a training exercise. She says, I had a roommate in college who had a bruise just like that. That's not a training exercise. If you want to say something, let me know. I think something's going on. You should probably tell me something's going on. The girl's like, no, everything's okay. Vice President Ross sees straight through it. What happens? She ends up going, Vice President Ross says, I'm going to take a step further. I'm going to get my girl. The girl who got me into this whole little mess to begin with, Olivia Pope, she shows up to the doorstep of OPA and Associates, and she's like, hey, Olivia, mind you.
LBJ, we have to pause there for a second to talk about Susan Ross's entrance into OPA and Associates. LBJ, the first thing we see is the Secret Service coming to the door. Yes. And Olivia, what happens, LBJ? She gets frazzled. She starts stirring up her nectar, because that's how she does it.
She started the nectar. That's good. Yeah, so good. Dan Blakeman doesn't call it stirring up the nectar. He said, did y'all catch how Liv thought Fitz was coming to her office when the vice president showed up? Dan called it hashtag girding herself.
LBJ, she started putting the, touching up the edges, LBJ, Coffee Light and Sweet said, at Dan LMBO, laughing my butt off. Yes, I saw Liz primping and trying to pretty up because she thought Fitz was stopping by OPA. Nope. I think her entire face fell on the floor when it was Susan. LBJ, Olivia starts to get frazzled, girding her loins, LBJ. She gets ready. She's getting ready. Only to turn, and she's already, her breath is caught in her throat, LBJ. She's all ready. The lip is just getting ready to quiver. And it's about to quiver. And she turns, LBJ, and it is not Fitz, honey. It is who? Susan Ross. LBJ, Susan Ross has said, you know what? I have identified an injustice. I tried once again to leverage the bit of power I thought I might have as the vice president to resolve this injustice. Turns out I have nothing. But I know one person who seems to have more power than anyone who's ever resided in the Oval Office. And that is who? Olivia. LBJ, she walks her tail directly into OPA and Associates, and she gets Olivia on the case. The next scene we see, LBJ, Olivia has already walked herself down to that Navy Yard, and she is there with that woman, LBJ, confronting her and saying, listen, you may think you're powerless in this situation. Oh, but you have power. Why? Because you have me. And it's just so crazy, LBJ, the way Olivia inspires confidence in people who are hopeless just by saying, I am here. And I'm telling you I'm here You don't know who I am from a can of paint, but I'm saying it with such authority and assertiveness that you believe me when I tell you that I can move mountains, that I can change this world, and that I'm going to help you. And LBJ, there is something about Olivia. Again, this is like, nectar, this is like another variation of the nectar. LBJ, people immediately trust her. She commands LBJ this respect and this trust from people. And here, this woman who is a part of the military, feeling very powerless. She does what, LBJ? She puts her fate into Olivia's hands.
She did. She put her fate into Olivia's hands, and it proved to be successful to a point by the end of the episode. But what I also enjoyed about this entire investigation, Janiyah, with this servicewoman and the admiral in the Navy, was the fact that one of my other predictions came to pass for this season of Scandal. And you know what that was, Janiyah?
What was it, LBJ?
Janiyah, it was a simple fact that Gabby Abby Red returned to OPA to begin gladiating. She showed up. Olivia showed back up to the office. Remember? She showed back up to the office, and she walks in, and she's like, "Oh, hey, Gabby." And she's like, she's holding like a cup of coffee. She's like, "Hey, I'm here to help." It was like, she's back. She's back. I'm so glad that she's back gladiating to a point for Scandal. I mean, for OPA, because she's needed there. I mean, we saw Gabby Abby Red and Olivia having a little brown bag lunch in the White House, and they were trying to dish about the whole thing, and prior to her coming back to help. And Olivia's like, "Well, tell me this, tell me that." She's like, I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. Like, I know we know secrets. I know we know where dead bodies are buried and everything, but I can't tell you any secrets or anything. I thought that was a pretty dope moment, and I want to brush my own shoulders off because, yet again, two of my things that I said came true.
LBJ, two of the things you said came true. And also, there is another little theme that you and I have been talking about that, once again, showed itself in this episode. And that is Shonda Rhimes using her brilliant platform to make us think, LBJ, about a lot of the things that are happening in this here world that are just not right. She's shining a light, LBJ, on yet another series of injustices. LBJ,
Absolutely.
We actually learned so much about the military justice system tonight. It was enough, LBJ, that it made you want to research and learn more and actually, form an opinion of your own. She talked about 1 in 3 women, and she used the vehicle of Susan Ross to get a lot of this information to us. 1 in 3 women, LBJ, who are in the military get some sort of sexual assault that happens to them, LBJ. And that we can just bet our bottom dollar that statistic is even low. And LBJ, one of the other little nuggets, and I wrote it down because it just blew my mind, in the event that a woman does kind of raise her hand in the military and say, you know what, something has happened to me, I've been sexually assaulted, if she loses the case, which again, she's often going to the perpetrators of the crime to ask for, some sort of justice. LBJ, if she loses, she then gets persecuted for filing a false claim. LBJ, these systems, LBJ, which throughout the episode, we kept calling them 200-year-old systems, 200-year-old systems. And Fitz kept referring to these 200-year-old systems because he was referring to it out of reverence. He was referring to it out of sheer respect.
Absolutely.
But as viewers of the show, we were hearing it as, literally stabs in the chest. God, Fitz, don't you hear what you're saying? That whatever's happening right now has been perpetrated for 200 years. So just hats off again, once more, to Shonda Rhimes for seriously, once again, getting us to think about some of these larger issues. That's another thing, LBJ, we've been talking about on the show the last few episodes.
Absolutely. The social commentary interwoven throughout this season of Scandal has been at an all-time high. And I pat my bald head to you, Shonda Rhimes, and the producers and the writers of the show, because you are really calling the attention. You are arresting the attention of your viewers to really try and stop and pay attention to some very, very serious matters that are not just affecting us, that have not affected us in the past, but are really affecting us today. Janiyah, I didn't even know that if a woman in the military files a rape case, it's not considered rape, Janiyah. Tonight we learned that it's considered an on-the-job injury. How brutally horrible is that? I was totally taken aback. And I know these people are not just arbitrary writers. Like, they probably researched that fact and presented it to us through the show tonight. So again, hats off to you, Shonda, and crew for the social commentary that we've had. I mean, they are really lifting womankind this season, if you ask me. We've got Mellie running for senator. We have Abby Red leading the leading comms at the White House as the press secretary. We have Lizzie Bear DeGeneres leading the campaign for Mellie. We have Quinn on the rise as B613 and the number 2 at OTA right now.
Hashtag lost your point.
Hashtag Janiyah still a hater about Quinn.
Hashtag Quinn is the worst. So that just back on that.
But Scandalous really raising the bar and taking womankind, taking not just humankind, but taking womankind higher this season. And I want to give them a shout out for that. But I also want to observe, Janiyah, take a moment to look at Mellie's reaction in all of this. Remember, Mellie in the show tonight, Mellie learned of the White House's lack of comment on what was going to happen. It was a very boilerplate, the military is looking into this. Let's move on to the next question. Homegirl Carol, who, by the way, she's the sister in the White House press corps on Scandal with the locks, and she asks a question every episode. Have you been paying attention to her?
LBJ, every episode
this season, she's like getting a question, and I'm like,
yes, she is.
Rise to be something.
Everyone else is fading into the background. We are really getting to know her face. We really are.
We keep hearing her name, Carol. And every episode, Carol is raising her hand and she's got questions. Anyway, Carol's asking Abby Red, and we see all of this that happens. And then Mellie comes rushing in to ask her husband, what are you going to say and do about this? And he gives her that boilerplate response, and he looks at her with this look in his eyes like, I'm so sorry I screwed up. I know I messed up. Please forgive me, but I got to say this because he knows what happened. Because Mellie knows what happened. Mellie was raped. Mellie is a victim of rape. And so now what did Fitz just do? And this is not an aside. This is not to lay aside Mellie's feelings or anything, but he really has made her sensitive, awkward Mellie because he put her in a really bad place at that time. But then when I tried to make a joke about her being sensitive, awkward Mellie, I was like, you know what? Most of all, out of all the Mellie she'll ever be, she's been fried chicken Mellie, she's been smelly Mellie, she's been Ugg-wearing Mellie, she's been not brushing her teeth Mellie. All in all, Mellie really is survivor Mellie because she survived and overcame that rape. And for that, Mellie, I pat my bald head to you.
Absolutely. And LBJ, let's just, rewind once again and then fast forward. So back to the earlier conversation about Lizzie Bear, LBJ. Lizzie Bear had been wanting, Mellie to go to Richfield as a part of her campaign. Mellie, you've got to go to Richfield. You've got to go to Richfield. This is the only way that you're going to be able to connect with women. Springfield. You've got to go to Springfield. This is the only way that you're going to be able to connect with women voters. And my recommendation to you, because I'm horrible and I'm, the absolute worst, is that you leverage the death of your son, which actually happened in Springfield, when you go, so that you will get these women voters. And LBJ, Mellie is literally torn over this because LBJ, we know at the end of the day that the allegiance to campaigning, the allegiance to presidency, the allegiance to power for Mellie and Fitz and all the characters in this episode, Cyrus, it puts them in a complete conundrum. I mean, they sacrifice themselves on a daily basis to, really accomplish those larger goals. So we're right there in the midst of Mellie trying to decide whether she is going to talk about her dead son, LBJ, for votes, LBJ, to get her seat in the Senate. When LBJ, this entire thing erupts. And we find out, LBJ, that there's an opportunity for her to potentially make a comment on this. There is now this whole other thing that's happened, LBJ, related to this rape. And it's interrupting her campaign. It's interrupting, to your point, her emotionally. And she now, LBJ, has another question to raise. Do I address this as a part of my campaign? And LBJ, do I defy my husband publicly? What happens? LBJ, I was so interested to watch how the show kind of played out. Mellie moving from having no support from Fitz, right? Fitz not wanting to at all have a viewpoint, a partnership, any kind of participation in exonerating this woman who had been raped, LBJ, and then all the way LBJ he swings to the other end of the spectrum. It was very interesting to watch.
But how did he do that, Janiyah? They were in bed together. After, now mind you, folks, Mellie and Fitz were in the bed. They were together 2 times this episode. They were intimately together. The first time was after, the first time was when Fitz realized that he really screwed up and he needed to acknowledge his wife's pain. And he embraced with Mellie, and Mellie needed that embrace. And there was so much in that embrace. And I think one of our friends actually called that. It was Dan. Dan says that the two of us have previously talked about, you and I have talked about that Fitz and Mellie could be coming back to each other.
Yep.
Between them isn't exciting by any means. And yes, they are there for each other because this is a business deal. Like,
Dan said it's not exciting by any means.
By any means. Nectar's not exciting by any means with Fitz and Mellie. But
it's not, because again, with them, it's not nectar. It's more like a serum. Or like, what's another kind of fluid? Like, it's not a nectar.
It's not nectar. It's a dewdrop.
LBJ, it's really like a morning mist over the grass, right? Like, it's like you wake up and the grass is kind of moist for no reason, but you know within an hour it's going to be dried up. Right, it's kind of like that. Well, LBJ,
morning mist, but
it's morning mist. It's morning mist. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, you did like more.
So that was the first time. The second time they were in bed together, and they were in bed together, really just connecting over their deceased child. They said, our son would have been 17. He would have been driving. Gosh, he would have been applying to colleges. Where would he go to school? Of course, Fitz is like Yale, Yale, Yale. Why? Because he's a Yale grad. We see all of this that takes place. And it was good to see Fitz and Mellie come together. But in the midst of all of that, Fitz strategized the way that he did because the nectar factor kicked in again.
Bam.
And he said to Mellie, she said, well, how are we going to do this? How am I going to say this? And what am I going to do? And he's holding her. He's like, you know what we're going to do? You know what we're going to say? We're going to do what Olivia would do. I'm going to hang myself in the middle of Tiananmen Square. And you're just going to go out there, and that's what Olivia would tell us to do. And that's what he did. And Mellie had no problem with it.
LBJ, you missed an important point. There was something that happened between, Mellie asking Fitz for support and, speaking out against this heinous rape, right? And Fitz coming around and really coaching Mellie about really being super vocal. What happened in the middle? He had a conversation with who? Olivia, LBJ.
Olivia Pope,
that was the intervening factor, LBJ. He talked with Olivia, and let's just recap this scene for a moment. And I have to just call out Coffee Light and Sweet. She said, #Nectar Chronicles, #unabridged edition. LBJ, this nectar is bananas. So there is, Olivia. She's in the midst of fighting this super difficult case. And once again, she needs to get access to information in only the way that Olivia can, which is to call who up on her secret phone? The President of the United States of America.
Hello, Vermont is calling. Is Vermont still for lovers?
Yeah. LBJ, she literally picks up the Nectar phone, calls him, sends Nectar directly through the line. And LBJ, I just love watching Olivia make that phone call. LBJ, as soon as his voice is on the line, she kicks off her shoes. She curls up her little legs. She gets comfortable. She's there to talk business, LBJ, or at least that's, what she's pretending to do. But LBJ, she leans right into that phone call. She gets comfortable. And they have their little banter that they always have. And they're both loving it so much. And then all of a sudden, Fitz LBJ, who the entire episode would not move not 1 inch, not one hair, not one tablespoon, is then in the bedroom with Mellie talking about, oh, Liv called. And all of a sudden, LBJ, his entire tune has changed. So this was not actually a moment of Mellie and Fitz connecting. This was once again a moment of Olivia being something that is pulling them together and simultaneously yanking them apart, which is why this little trio, it's so complex, LBJ. You know, that moment of intimacy of watching Mellie and Fitz in that bed, anyone who's been in a long-term relationship will say that those moments where you're planning the future, you know, those moments where you're talking about what, you know, your children will do, even if they don't exist quite yet, those moments are some of the most intimate moments that a couple can share. They were sitting there, LBJ, talking about the future that their dead son would have had. And just as casually as they might bring up LBJ, what they had for dinner, they start bringing up Olivia. This is how much her presence is intertwined into their intimate relationship. That was just such a heavy scene, LBJ.
It was a very heavy scene, but I do have to say, Janiyah, Olivia did not curl her legs up in the chair until after they were shifting, like they were talking business this call. But then when Olivia began to share, like when she began to really editorialize her thoughts, like when she began to really insert her thoughts into the entire thing and not just deal with the facts about what happened, that's when Olivia curled her legs, because she was starting to open up and peel off the layers and really lean into homie on the phone, Mr. Vermont. And if you ever notice what happens on the show, folks, maybe next week we'll see it. I don't know what's supposed to. I'll tell you that about later what I think will happen next week. But if we get a chance to see Olivia and Fitz on the phone next week, which we might not, just watch or go back and watch tonight's episode and a couple other episodes when they're on the phone. They always cue up the strings in the piano when Olivia and Fitz are on the phone, and they hold the strings of the piano in the score right until that moment when Olivia is about to peel off a layer, or if Fitz is peeling off a layer and Olivia's not going to bite. They always cue up the piano and the strings. It's classic. I love it.
LBJ, you know, it's going to be just the most interesting thing in the world when we finally see how this love story pans out, LBJ. Because, I mean, it is just so interesting to watch it continue to be an undercurrent after everything that has occurred. And LBJ, just to wrap up this storyline, you know, Fitz and Mellie, they're sitting there in the bed with Olivia sitting there, you know, as their imaginary friend. And they decide that Mellie is going to, LBJ, she's going to go ahead and instead of talking about her dead son, which Lizzie Bear DeGeneres wants her to do, she's instead going to speak out against Fitz, and she's going to talk about the rape, and she's going to talk about the injustice, and she's going to talk about something that she's now taking on as a platform, LBJ, for herself if she's elected. And that is really, you know, looking into this military justice system and trying to come up with some solutions for people. And LBJ, in that moment, we saw her, you know, choosing a political tactic. We saw her making the decision to not put her son out there and leverage his death to get the vote she needed and the support she needed. But LBJ, she still sacrificed something, LBJ. You know, we all knew that she was telling her own story when she talked about rape. You know, so LBJ, once again, this was just a very vulnerable moment. And hats off to that actress. I mean, what's her name again? And
her name is Bellamy Young. Bellamy Young.
Yes. Bellamy Young, LBJ. I mean, she really, truly, we were with her emotionally in the turmoil of this episode. She did an amazing job. So she delivered the speech, LBJ, and they did the iconic, you know, black and white freeze frame of Mellie at the podium with the American flags, you know, and the glitter hither and thither, to and fro. And we knew in that moment, LBJ, that she's pretty much on her path to being elected.
Janiyah, you are about to get some people in the Q&A mentioning you saying hither and thither. You always do that. And it is so funny. Can I also just say, while we're talking about the campaign, though,
Yes.
Mellie's logo looks a lot like Ready for Hillary. I'm just saying.
Oh.
It looks a lot like Ready for Hillary. But Janiyah, while we're talking about Mellie,
yes,
Candace Brown, my wife, is here. She says the biggest twist of the night for me was the little Navy lawyer being B613, little Navy lawyer being Herschel, and Mellie being Foxtail.
Crazy.
We got to go there. We've got to go.
We got to go there. We must, LBJ.
I have to say, Candace is my witness to this. At the top of the episode tonight, when they did the tease between Grace coming in a scandal, and they brought up the whole Foxtail hashtag thing, I told Candace, I was just like, you know what? I have a feeling it's Mellie. Like, something tells me this deals with Mellie. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I don't know. I think something is going to happen to Mellie next week, that it's going to be like a cliffhanger. Like, is Mellie going to make it into season 5 of Scandal?
Right.
And I said this at the top of the episode tonight, not knowing that Mellie was really going to be Foxtail.
Right. LBJ, here's what I have to say. Mellie, you are not in the loop in any way, shape, or form. For you to be able to look Command in his face and not know that he's Command. I mean, that was my first thought. I was just like,
can we talk about how she walked into the room and Rowan Pope was like, oh, yes, First Lady, Madam First Lady. And then she's like, hello, sir. Are you here to kill me? Like, she didn't even know.
LBJ, absolute worst. But the other thing is, LBJ, and I was searching my memory, I wasn't sure, but doesn't Lizzie Bear DeGeneres know about Command? I feel like there was some episode in the past where we felt like she had a sense of that. And if that's the case, LBJ, is she in cahoots with Command? I just can't remember if Lizzie Bear is actually as clueless as she was acting like she was in that episode.
So Lizzie Bear knows that there is some kind of undercover download agency handling things out there. She does not know that Rowan Pope is this person. If she does know Rowan Pope is this person, then that is probably they're probably going to reveal that to us. And something that we probably just glazed over watching the show, where they probably told us, oh, look, this is Lizzie Bear DeGeneres talking to Rowan Pope right here. She was standing right next to him fishing at the lake that day. You just didn't see her. Like, she was baiting the hook for him. We don't know. We don't know if that's the case, but we do know that she knows that there's some undercover agency, because she dealt directly with Huck as he began to torture her and, gave her the 12 years a slave lashes and everything on the back earlier in the season. Stephanie Beard asks flat out, how can Mellie not know who Rowan is? We don't know. I don't know. How does Mellie not know who Rowan is? Or does Mellie know who Rowan is, and Mellie is not going to address who he is head on? She's going to whisper into some Secret Service agent's ear who's working for B613. They're going to be like, okay, we'll handle it, man. And then pop, there goes Mellie in the stomach, and she's down. Or somebody with the ring is going to pat her on the back, and then she goes out like her son goes out, and with meningitis. Who knows?
LBJ, we don't know. What we do know right now, that Mellie is sitting in there flashing her most flashiest smile, shaking a hand like she's never shaken any hand. And it's because Lizzie Bear has told her, oh, guess what? This person is going to fund the heck out of your campaign. Get on his good side, close this deal. So LBJ, we know that Command is just about to begin to leverage Mellie. What could he possibly do, LBJ? And what sort of deal is she going to strike with the devil, LBJ, before she even finds out he's the devil? That is going to continue to play out in future seasons. LBJ, Foxtail, let me just say, hashtag, it's reviving the show. We've talked over the last, I would say this entire season, LBJ, about whether the show is winding down. Olivia got kidnapped. Are we grasping here a little bit? LBJ, they have found a way, LBJ, with this integration of Command into the White House in a whole new way. They found a way to intrigue us once again, LBJ. I'm excited. I think genuinely excited for the first time about next season to kind of watch how this Foxtail plays out in the last episode of this season and how it continues to play out in the future.
I totally agree 100% about everything that you just said, Janiyah. I think that B613 is on a whole new level, or something on a whole nother level. And I think that it's plain to see that it's all going to blow up next week during the season finale. We've seen in the tease that there's going to be a lot that goes down next week in the show. I mean, and Candace Brown, was it Candace who said this? But a lot of people are in the Q&A really talking about B613 and how this whole B613 thing goes down. Who's exactly a part of B613? How are the folks selected for B613? All of that. It remains to be seen, everyone. Will we find out who else is in B613 next week? I think we'll learn. We'll probably see like a whole little knockdown of people who have been helping along the way with B613 drama and everything. But the fact that B613 was able to come in there and breach the household of Olivia Pope again, with Virgil,
LBJ. Not only did they
like, what's going on? Like, Huck, they held. Did he put you in the hole? When he put you in the hole, you reached the threshold of your capacity building for being in B613, Huck. Like, you are amazing at what you do. But remember, the man who trained you was still out on the loose, so he knows the whole 12-second rule. Okay, he knew for a fact that he waited on the phone for 12 seconds. You would be able to trace where he was. That's why at 11.57 seconds, he hung up the telephone, and you did not be able to run a trace on where he was. So again, we've got to get some sharper people from B613 on the OPA side so that they can be allies with this entire war that's about to break out between the Pope family and probably America.
And LBJ, and I just have to say, Huck was a much better contributor to the show in general before he got distracted by Quinn. But anyway, perhaps LBJ, it's time to move into takeaways. LBJ, I cannot believe, the clock on the wall. LBJ, it's time to wrap up. Do you have any get out? Do you have any takeaways, LBJ?
So I don't necessarily have takeaways this week, Janiyah. I'm taking a page out of your book. And I have questions. I have questions. The first question deals directly with the tease for next week's episode. And our dear friend in the Q&A, I'm going to pull up her comment because I just saw it. Scroll past. And it essentially is dealing with Mama Pope. Mama Pope is back next week. I said Mama Pope is coming back. I said that we will see her again before the season is up. And what happened? Mama Pope is back. So my question is for Mama Pope, did she get her picket fence and did she get her cable? Did she see her baby on TV? Remember, she asked for those things at the last time we saw her.
Very clear. Very clear.
Yeah. So what will Mama Pope have the next time we see her? And what will she be doing in the season finale of Scandal? What will Maya Pope be doing? Mama Pope. The next question I have, Janiyah, who is paying Lois's rent? Lois has been dead for some time now on the show.
That's true.
I want to know who is paying Lois's rent next door to Olivia. Is Olivia footing the bill for Lois's rent? Because now they're using the late Lois's apartment as a staging area and the war room for all of OPA's dirty stuff that's going down that they normally have going down at other people's homes and things of that sort. So who exactly is paying Lois's rent at this point?
And LBJ, I actually know the answer to that question. Let's not forget that Huck does have $2 billion in his Bank of America account. So he's got $2 billion down at Wells Fargo. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he's probably paying the rent. Anyway, please continue. Didn't mean to interrupt.
That's fine. And my last question is, who else, like everyone else in the Q&A, who else is in B613? I will say tonight I got hosed. Yes. I completely got hosed. The fact that Lawyer Virgil was B613 completely threw me for a loop. I did not believe that Virgil would be B613 like that. And I tweeted, I was like, we got hosed, guys. We got hosed. I never thought that was coming. But this also leads me to believe, to ask the question, who else is B613? Because if the Admiral knew who Virgil, whatever his last name was deceased, like this Virgil was shot like plumb in the head. He was a known person in this court because his picture was on in the trophy case in the hallway. So why did anyone know that this wasn't Virgil? And if someone knew that this was Virgil, oh, you know what? This might be the reason why. That's probably why he was wearing the Band-Aid on his head, because they probably marked it down in the book, I always crack a code at the end of the Scandal recap, Janaya. I always crack a code.
I'm happy to be your inspiration. Excellent. You're welcome.
We go back. Virgil was wearing a Band-Aid. Wearing that Band-Aid. Remember, the real Virgil was shot in the head. Maybe this Virgil was wearing the Band-Aid to fake as if there was a head injury, which they know about this head injury, but B613 took him away. But now it's on record that he has a head injury, so this Virgil has to wear the Band-Aid to take that on. But who else is in the military? Who else is playing on this team?
Well, LBJ, Virgil actually had a bruise on his head. Because when they flashed back LBJ to the scene of him putting the dead real Virgil into his trunk, he had a bruise. It was obviously from the tussle of having killed the fake Virgil.
Real Virgil.
I mean,
okay, you're right.
Right. So that was actually a valid bruise. He lied about why it was there. But LBJ, the question of who is in B613, and also let's just say that, you know, the military, some of these leaders are in cahoots. Did they, you know, how far back does this thing go? You know, was this rape something that was orchestrated so that, you know, there could be a case, so that, you know, Mellie could get drawn in, so that Command could then foxtail himself right on in there? I mean, at the end of the day, LBJ, when you can literally just kill people and replace people, you know, once again, what did Jake and Russell say about Command? You can't take command, son. Is that what it was, LBJ?
You can't take it. Yeah, that's right. You can't take command, son.
Yeah, there you go. Hashtag got us again.
From the Book of Rowan. Got us again.
From the Book of Rowan.
And my last thing tonight is, will Mellie live? Like, I read something which I never really do. Blogs about Scandal, and they were talking about how they heard people from folks from inside sources and leaks that they taped all these different things from Scandal. I actually saw an interview today with Mellie, with Bellamy Young, who kind of confirmed this as well, saying that they taped various things for the season finale of the show. The cast doesn't even know what the show will be because they taped so many different things. Shonda tweeted tonight that she just finished re-editing the season finale of Scandal, and she was about to work on the season finale for Grey's Anatomy tonight. So she probably has to get that in the can with the network, let them see it, approve it and everything, and then we go and see what's going to happen. Will Mellie live to next season? That's my question, because the blog I read said three people are going to die in the season finale. That's what I read. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I hope one is Quinn. But anyway, so back to my takeaway.
Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week for the season finale of Scandal. We're going to end this broadcast right now. Hashtag Janai is a hater for Quinn.
LBJ, and let me just say, I have to really, because of the time, reel myself in. Because I have 3 takeaways, LBJ. You know, maybe I can get them all in if I go really quickly. LBJ, the first one is, you know, we cannot forget that the entire case in this episode started because Susan Roth just saw a half inch of a bruise on somebody's wrist and took action, LBJ. How many times do you see a person in need and you just keep on walking? You know, one thing, I recently moved to New York, and LBJ, let me say, I am right now an expert. I am very good at marching directly past vagabonds. I mean, LBJ, you know, they're hither, they're there.
Wait, the fact you use vagabonds in your speeches.
LBJ, you know, and I'm like,
maybe think of Oliver Twist, the vagabond.
LBJ, who is this person I become? But again, LBJ, there's a callousness that Susan Ross does not have. She sees people in need and she helps people. And so the question there, LBJ, the takeaway there is, you know, are you stepping up? Who steps up? Can we step up more? The second one, LBJ, is a reflection on the abortion that actually took place in this episode. That was another really important issue we didn't talk about. But once again, Shonda bringing these issues to the forefront, forcing us to discuss and consider that woman who was raped, LBJ. She had to get an abortion, right? And so, yeah, she won the case, LBJ. but she now for the rest of her life is going to be dealing with the emotional trauma related to not only the rape itself, but that emotional trauma related to literally sitting there in that cold, sterile room, LBJ, with that machine whirring. I shed a tear, to sit there watching her hold Olivia's hand as that abortion took place. LBJ, it was heartbreaking. But it's just a general note about the ripple effect. The takeaway there is, you know what? At the end of the day, when you don't take the opportunity to do what Susan Ross did, and that is take action when you see a 1/4-inch bruise on someone's wrist, you never know what else, LBJ, is going to be the ripple effect from that. When you miss an opportunity to help a person, when a person is in distress, those things just continue to play out. And I just thought, my gosh, that soldier is going to be dealing with that for the rest of her life. And my last little note here, LBJ, is about Russell having that kill pill just sitting right up in his cheek every day. It's like he just wakes up in the morning, brushes his teeth. Well, better put my kill pill in. Bloop, he pops it right in there.
Like how the keep the razor blades in their tongues back in the day.
Right. LBJ, he's walking through his life literally willing to die for something at any given moment. And I just thought, boy, he's brainwashed. But then I also thought, my goodness, that is conviction. That's courage. That's commitment. And it just raised that question, LBJ, as a takeaway. What would you die for? I mean, that's a tough question to ask yourself. So those are the things that came to my mind as takeaways tonight, LBJ. This was a heavy episode.
Tonight, you got real deep. We switched roles. I did the questions and you went deep. You went a Yama on us. You became a Yama.
I'm here to serve. I'm a servant.
Oh, God. So let's go ahead and hop into this round robin, Janiyah. So out the gate in the round robin, let's start with Kat Harlem, who is commenting on the Google Plus page. Kat Harlem, thank you so much for watching. Kat Harlem says the 3 deaths will be Lizzie Bear DeGeneres, Russell, or who we like to call, Janiyah, what? Old Two-Face.
Old Two-Face.
Old Two-Face.
Old Two-Face.
And Kat Harlem says, and the Mama Pope. However, Mama Pope will be revived next season. Those are Kat Harlem's predictions for the deaths in the season finale for Scandal.
Yes. And LBJ, I have to call out in the chat Stephanie Beard, who said, notice that when Mellie asked what took him so long, Fitz just said, I was talking to Liv. And she said, oh, how crazy is that? Him talking to his ex-mistress is not a problem. Stephanie Beard, once again, highlighting what we've been talking about, LBJ, about the fact that somehow they're in some twisted little love triangle with varying levels of permission and forgiveness and allowance. It is bananas.
Yeah, one of my questions that I had for the next season, I didn't say this, but it was in my notes, was is Philly is Met is Olivia? No, not Olivia. Is Fitz and Mellie? It's time for me to go to bed. Are Fitz and Mellie going to have an open relationship? Are they going to go and have an open marriage? Because when they were in that bed, it was like the only person missing, like you said, was an imaginary friend, Olivia. And if Olivia was in that bed, it would have been like, Mellie, you sit to the side, let us do what we do, and then we can all sleep together. I don't know. Candace is in the Q&A, and she says, Mellie and Fitz don't have romantic feelings for one another. Their marriage is an arrangement at this point and has been for a very long time. I totally agree with you, Candace, 100%.
Well said. Coffee Light and Sweet in the chat. Oh, no, it just hit me. Rowan handpicks the B613 agents to trip up Olivia. Handsome ones to seduce her and helpless ones to appeal to her savior syndrome. Man, that's cold-blooded. Love it, Coffee Light and Sweet. Love it.
We see why Olivia does what she does. And Olivia, I will have to say, she likes guys from the tribe of Pretty Boy. She has a thing for Pretty Boy. She's not never, ever laid in the bed with somebody that's not a pretty boy. She's not been with your average run-of-the-mill guy. She definitely goes for the pretty boys on the show. I also want to bring up Dan Blakemore, who's talking about Virgil. He says, regarding lawyer Virgil, do you recall that Liv and Quinn asked out loud how they could end up with him? Nobody even Googled him. Hashtag sloppy work folks. You are
Oh,
totally right, Dan. They never ever looked him up, why they got him or anything. They never did a background on him ever. We never saw him go to the little glass wall in OPA and put up a whole profile of Virgil. Never saw that.
yeah.
You're right.
D Hill said the same thing. Olivia is slipping. Virgil is a Papa Pope goon. They are slipping, LBJ. You know, at the end of the day, you know, they have really, I mean, we have never seen so many mistakes happen, so many things get by them, you know, and it's really becoming a problem. I hope Quinn leaves soon so they can stop being distracted.
Thank you guys so much for watching again. Hashtag Janiyah is a Quinn hater. We'll see you guys next week. Anyway, Coffee Light and Sweet says, I'm curious to see if Russell, or whom we like to call Old Two-Face, is such a B613 golden boy prodigy. Why did he stumble bumble so much in the beginning? Was it by design? Jake even complimented Two-Face's skills when they were having the bromance party. I definitely believe that it was by design, that he
Yes,
would
indeed.
have a little grayness that was going on with Olivia. And of course, you know, it's for the script too. We got to have some drama to keep this thing going.
The other piece of it, LBJ, is that Olivia has to catch them. That's the point that Jake was making, and that's the point that Dan Blakemore was making in the chat earlier. You know, Olivia has to catch them. That's what Jake was saying. So the fumbling and the bumbling, it was Command tripping him up, because a flawless performance would not have allowed Command to exert his control over Olivia.
You're right. It makes Olivia think that she had some kind of power. So I caught you. You're doing this, and my daddy said to do this to me, and I just want to drink wine and eat popcorn. Yeah, that's what she's probably doing. Oh, and you know what? Here's D Hill again. D Hill says, Janiyah is right. People trust Olivia, but Olivia is too trusting with her own life. Hashtag your daddy has set you up. Janiyah. There it is.
Yeah, had to be said. And I love how Candace Brown in the chat, you know, really summed up, you know, what we've been talking about Olivia slipping. She's like, Olivia continues to underestimate her father, Russell, Virgil, and the list goes on and on. She still doesn't get just how far he'll go to get his way and exert control over her. LBJ, you're right. I mean, Candace, you're hitting it on the head. She just doesn't seem to want to accept it. But let me just say this. If she were to accept it, the only thing she could possibly do would be to go ahead and fly away with Jake. Because there's no life for her. There's no life for her without being under Command's thumb. It's just not possible.
Can't exist without Command. Command is control of everything. Coffee Light and Sweet has two things I want to bring to attention. First thing is, you guys notice that Lauren is no longer working in the White House. Know why? Because she's B613. I called it. Boom. Morris is security guard too. Don't laugh. It just might be true, huh? Remember, Morris, the security guard, is the guy from the Cosby Show from back in the day. Who like in season 1 or 2 of Scandal. We've never seen him again in the show. So she's talking about Morris. Wait, secondly, why is that man's name Morris and why is he a security guard? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that? I just thought about that.
Yeah.
Coffee Light Sweet says, hashtag anything is possible in Shondaland. You're right. We have to keep our eyes out for Morris and for Lauren. And then the last one Coffee Light and Sweet said, I wanted to bring up tonight. She says, hashtag nectar, hashtag serum, hashtag dewdrop, hashtag morning mist. I cannot with y'all tonight. I would just like to add to that, this too much.
Yes. And LBJ, you know what? There is so much good stuff in the chat tonight. But I think that we can sum it all up with, you know, what D Hill said in the chat, which is hashtag yeah. LBJ, it's another day in the world of Shondaland. You know, this is another set of twists and turns. LBJ, I, for one, don't have any predictions for next week's episode because it is literally, there's too many pieces out there. There's too many questions on the brain. And you know what, LBJ? We just really, truly have to just buckle our seatbelts and hold on and see what happens.
We definitely have to buckle up and see what happens. Oh, Glenda Wyndham is always back. Glenda Wyndham is always the first person to everybody who says, hi, everyone. So, Glenda, we want to make sure that we say hello to you and the Q&A tonight. I'm like you, Janiyah. I am buckling up for next week D Hill agrees with me. She said that there are questions of plenty of questions.
Yes.
For tonight's episode as we go into the season finale next week. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us. We love being with you on Thursday nights. We have early Friday mornings. We're very busy, but we take this time to engage with you so that we can talk about one of our favorite shows on TV. Until next week, the season finale, season 4 of Scandal on ABC. I'm Larry Brown Jr.
And I'm Janiyah Wright. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Absolutely. And hey, hit us up and tell us if you want to be a part of a Gladiator Report next week. Let's do this all out before we say bye-bye for this season.
Yes.
Get your Gladiator Reports and have your Scandal watch party. Get your snacks and your beverages together and let's just rock this thing out.
Love it.
We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye now.
Bye.